This is the Sultanate of Oman television with 7 o'clock news bulletin. But first, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq greets the Bolivian president and the Governor General of Jamaica on their country's independence anniversary. Assigned by His Majesty the Sultan, His Excellency the Foreign Minister represents the Sultanate at the swearing-in ceremony of the new Iranian president. With a production capacity to feed around 50,000 residential units, the Ibri solar energy plant starts commercial operations in the governorate of Al-Dhahira. And the Ministry of Health reports 17 deaths and 296 new COVID-19 cases and 1,039 recovered in the Sultanate. You are with 7 o'clock news bulletin from the Sultanate of Oman television. And now, the details. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cabal of greetings to His Excellency Luis Alberto Arce, President of Bolivia, on his country's independence anniversary. His Majesty the Sultan has also sent a cabal of greetings to His Excellency Dr. Patrick Linton Allen, Governor General of Jamaica, on his country's independence anniversary. By the royal directives of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad Al Busaidi represented the Sultanate of Oman in the swearing-in ceremony of Dr. Ibrahim Raisi as the new president of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Delegations from many countries attended the ceremony that took place in Tehran. The new president-elect will assume office for 4 years as his country is seeking to revive the nuclear deal talks with the major powers and to lift the U.S. sanctions for the return of Iran to its nuclear deal obligations. His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad Al Busaidi, the Foreign Minister, met with His Excellency Dr. Mohammad Rida, first Vice President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The meeting reviewed cooperation and friendship relations between both countries besides a number of matters of common concern. His Excellency the Foreign Minister confirms the Sultanate keenness on continuing the development for mutual interest in various fields that enhance the exchanged benefits between friendly peoples and countries. From his side, His Excellency the First Vice President of the Islamic Republic of Iran confirmed the strong relations between both countries and the keenness of enhancing them at various fields. Lieutenant General Ghanim Shaheen Al-Ghanim, Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces in the state of Qatar, and his accompanying delegation visited the Maritime Security Center MSC today. During the visit, the Qatari military official was accompanied by Vice Admiral Abdullah Khamis Al-Raisi, Chief of Staff of the Sultan Armed Forces SAF. Upon their arrival at the MSC, they were received by Rear Admiral Saif Nasser Al-Rahbi, Commander of the Royal Navy of Oman, Renault, and a number of senior SAF officers. The Qatari Armed Forces Chief toured the center's facilities as he viewed its latest equipment and technologies. He was also briefed on the tactical roles and tasks carried out by the center within its national duties as it coordinates with relevant authorities in search and rescue missions and the safety of the maritime environment. The commercial operation of Ibri second solar project has started with an initial production output of 500 megawatt to support 50,000 housing units in the governorate of Al-Dhahira. The solar power station is the largest of its kind in the Sultanate, with investments over 150 million Omani riyals, occupying around 13 million square meters of land. The project, which was developed by the Oman Power and Water Procurement, has already been integrated into the main power grid in the governorate. The project is in line with the government's initiative to increase reliance on sustainable and renewable power energy by 30% by the end of 2030 and will help offsetting over 400,000 tons of harmful emissions per year. More than 140 million solar panels were installed in the current project, which will complement power stations running on fossil fuel. The project has been equipped by automated cleaning mechanisms to maximize power output and lessen dependency on fossil fuel to produce power. Subjects to value-added tax started submitting their tax statements last July. The contribution of VAT amounted to 13% of the total revenues of the government till May this year, representing 41% of non-oil revenues during the 5 months of this year. Imports of goods and services purchased and sold in the Sultanate, which are identified in the value-added tax law and its organizing regulations, are subject to 0 to 5% of VAT. Some goods and services are exempted as per the aforementioned VAT law and its regulation. The tax statement are submitted via the electronic portal of the tax authority. You are with the Sultanate of Oman television, and later to come in our news bulletin, a deadly wildfire on the Greek island of Evia forced residents to flee. Once again, welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. As many as 296 new cases of coronavirus COVID-19 were registered in the Sultanate during the past 24 hours, in addition to 17 new COVID-19 related death cases. This brings the total number of positive COVID-19 cases to 298,020 in the Sultanate. The total number of COVID-19 related death cases reached 3,906. The ministry added that 1,039 new cases have recovered, bringing the total number to 282,763 recoveries. The ministry also pointed out that 33 people were hospitalized over the past 24 hours, as the total number of current hospitalized COVID-19 infected patients stands at 401, of which 189 are in intensive care units around healthcare institutions in the country. In the meantime, medical staff continue the efforts to combat coronavirus. The total number of inpatients at the COVID-19 field hospital reached 82, with 45% bed occupancy. More details in the following report.
Round the clock, the medical teams at the COVID-19 field hospital attend to their patients wholeheartedly.
During the months of May and June, we were having roughly about 30 admissions per day compared to only 2 or 3 per day nowadays. Our capacity and bed occupancy was exceeding 95% in the general wards and about 100% in the high dependency. And that's much less nowadays. So we have about 45% capacity with only 14 patients in the high dependency. And overall, we have only 32 patients as of today morning in the hospital as a whole. With out of those, 14 are in the high dependency.
Side by side with their fellow consultants, doctors and nurses, the physiotherapists provide the essential rehabilitation required by COVID-19 patients to regain their normal breathing pace.
We have a big rule with the COVID patient, and we have a rule whether the patient is in ICU or in high dependency or in even the normal ward. So our role is just to mobilize the patient as soon as possible out of the bed, and we have big different technique that we are using with the patient. One of the techniques is that we are trying our best to just tell the patient what is the how they should breathe, which is we can call it in our specialist is a deep breathing exercise, or the other thing that the bed activity exercise, which is helping the patient to expand their lungs. Whenever the patient is having a good mood, that his condition will improve very fast, and he will collaborate whether with physio or with other medical staff. So in that case, patient will see much improvement, and he will just stay less than the others in whether in ICU or in the hospital itself.
I was in high dependency unit for 7 days. Now I'm really getting day by day better. So I would like to express my sincere gratitude towards the entire medical staff, doctor, Ministry of Health.
With determination and high spirits, the medical teams strive to see their efforts crowned with the full recovery of their patients and seeing them go back to join their families. It's very important that we continue our full commitment to the precautionary measures to maintain the efforts exerted and break the chain of the virus. From COVID-19 Field Hospital, Salih Khalfan al-Rahbi, Muscat.
Once again, to respond to the nationwide public health need for vaccine against COVID-19, big number of nurses and healthcare staff with good number of volunteers have been assigned in many different healthcare institutions across the Sultanate. I was present in some of the areas and I made this particular report. In a bid to speed up the delivery of COVID-19 vaccines, many nurses and other healthcare staff, including volunteers, have been assigned in various healthcare institutions across the Sultanate. The arrangements have been made to meet the demand for vaccine and protect communities more quickly by making sure there are enough qualified people available to administer the shots.
I am happy I took my vaccine to be safe. Thank you all nurses.
The rapid spread of Delta variant across many countries is a major cause for concern. Most of the new cases hospitalized are unvaccinated people. So it's necessary that we get our vaccines and continue applying effective use of all public and social health measures to make sure that we stop this virus.
In the meantime, non-stop work by nurses and other healthcare staff in the COVID-19 units continues. These healthcare staff, though they have been encountering pressure due to more number of COVID-19 cases admitted to their unit, they have kept exerting their dedicated caring work all the way long with the hope that public adheres to preventive measures and would take the advantage of taking COVID-19 vaccines, which are available throughout Oman. At the same time, they have placed their trust that people would continue to follow all preventive methods. All of these nurses and other healthcare staff have taken their vaccines, which is part of their responsibility that uphold the reputation of their profession so that people receiving care and wider public can have confidence in them.
I took vaccine to protect myself and protect you. Be the next to protect you and others.
Here, they are seen with a sign message of hope and love. Given the significant pressures on the healthcare system and the need to fully support existing services, healthcare staff and good number of volunteers took the opportunity to work as one team and managed to speed up the vaccination process very well.
At this point of time, yes, we are happy about the positive progress and updates of the COVID pandemic, as indicated by the national statistics in the reduction of the total number of the daily registered positive cases, reduction in the total number of admissions, and the total number of deaths. But it's not time to celebrate yet, as the Delta virus is still spreading. However, vaccine had shown its effectiveness in those who had received it.
Let's congratulate all of them for playing an essential role in the fight against COVID-19 and helping to deliver care in every difficult circumstances. Their contribution and support to the healthcare workforce during COVID-19 outbreak is well commended. Be nice to yourself. Follow all preventive measures in order to stay away from coronavirus. Remember, if you protect yourself, you automatically protect others. Stay safe and healthy. That conclusion was from the bridge of Wilayat of Sur in Niger, of course, the last location of this particular report. In order to enhance its efforts to preserve components of maritime environment, Environment Authority started planting 1 million of seeds of mangrove trees at Wetland Reserve in the Wilayah of Mahout in the Governorate of Al-Wusta through using drone technology. It is being organized in cooperation with Petroleum Development Oman PDO. The campaign came within the context of rehabilitation of wetland environment and the national initiative to plant 10 million trees. Part of international news, the World Health Organization is calling on high-income countries to halt the use of booster shots before the end of September in order to allow at least 10% of the population of every country to be vaccinated against COVID-19.
So far, more than 4 billion vaccine doses have been administered globally. More than 80% have gone to high and upper middle income countries, even though they account for less than half of the world's population. I understand the concern of all governments to protect their people from the Delta variant. But we cannot and we should not accept countries that have already used most of the global supply of vaccines, using even more of it, while the world's most vulnerable people remain unprotected.
WHO Director General there. Satellite imagery from Maxar Technology showed the Mercer Strait tanker moored off the coast of Fujairah, United Arab Emirates yesterday after a suspected drone attack on the tanker last Thursday led to deaths of Britain and a Romanian. Britain, Romania and Liberia told the United Nations Security Council that they used one or more drones to carry out the deadly tanker attack off the coast of Oman. British Foreign Minister Dominic Raab said he and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken were united in their condemnation of the attack last week on the tanker, having spoken to his American counterpart. Israeli aircraft struck what its military said were rocket launch sites in South Lebanon early today in response to earlier projectile fire towards Israel from Lebanese territory. 2 rockets launched from Lebanon yesterday struck Israel, which responded with artillery fire amid heightened regional tensions over an alleged attack on an oil tanker in the Gulf last week. Al-Manar television said that Israeli warplanes had carried out 2 raids in the 2 outskirts of the Lebanese town of Mahmoudiyah, about 12 kilometers from the Israeli border. A rapidly moving wildfire on the Greek island of Evia tore through dense pine forest yesterday, causing residents to flee and leaving coated buildings in its wake. The fire, worsened by changing winds, forced authorities to evacuate nearly a dozen villages as it made its way down to the sea, burning homes, trees and olive press at the seaside village of Rouviers, north of Athens. Coast Guard vessels picked up at least 50 people from a beach close to Rouviers who were cut off by the fire and transferred them to a ferry. Greece is facing its most severe heat wave in 30 years, and the risk remained high for the next few days in most parts of the country as temperatures surpassed 40 degrees Celsius for the third day. Fires were also burning in Halkidiki in northern Greece, the Peloponnese in the regions of Messenia and Mani, and in Ilia, close to ancient Olympia villages around the site were evacuated. Reinforced states arrived from Cyprus, and firefighters from France and 2 aircraft from Sweden were expected by Thursday. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets the Bolivian President and the Governor General of Jamaica on their country's independence anniversary. Assigned by His Majesty the Sultan, His Excellency the Foreign Minister represented the Sultanate at the swearing-in ceremony of the new Iranian President. With a production capacity to feed around 50,000 residential units, the Ibri Solar Energy Plant starts commercial operations in the governorate of Al-Zahira. And finally, the Ministry of Health reports 17 deaths and 296 new COVID-19 cases and 1,039 recovered in the Sultanate. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. Once again, do take all the precautionary measures, stay safe and healthy. Good night.